Welcome to another episode of the Screaming at Kicking podcast, the podcast for coaches who want to learn and grow. This is a little different episode. We are missing Omar today. Sorry, Omar. We will definitely get you in the next one and look forward to it. If you are listening or watching, feel free to boo Omar for missing out. But I am talking with Dr. James Whitaker from Concordia University. He was my head coach in college for 3 seasons. I also coached with him for 5 seasons at Concordia University when he started the program there. So I have known him for a long time. He's an awesome guy with really an amazing career and story of just going from playing to coaching and kind of moving up in the coaching world, transitioning into an athletic director role, and now overseeing the sports management program there at CIU. So really interesting perspective on just the different levels and kind of moving from one to the other and how that can work. So I think it can really be valuable for anybody out there, especially wondering how things might work and how you might get to a different level that you want to get to and what that can look like. So tons of insights and also just an awesome guy to chat with. It was awesome catching up with him. Let's get into it. Hi, James. Thanks so much for joining us, man. I'm super excited. It's good to see your face again. It's good to see you on here. It's been way too long since we've done that, pandemically or not, but it's good to have you on here.
It's great to hear from you, Tyler. It's great to join you. Proud of you, man, and all the cool things you're doing. So excited to be with you this evening.
Awesome. Omar, unfortunately, is not here. All the fans can boo at that, and we'll make sure he hears about it. So, just getting started. Whitney, our producer, aka my wife, had a good idea just to share kind of a little background on how we know each other, and including some first impressions and things like that. So, I'll get started with that. James took over as head coach of the men's soccer program at Clearwater Christian College. It was my sophomore year that he started there. And I think he was doing some athletic director stuff there. I could be wrong. Or maybe it was teaching some kind of lots of other stuff going on too. But he took over there my sophomore year. After my freshman season, we had made it to nationals, but we didn't do real great at the national tournament. But we were excited about the next season. And really, I mean, he was the first coach that I had in my life that I really learned a lot from and looked up to, who had a lot of playing experience and just so much to share and learn from. So I was super excited for that. However, first impressions might have been a little rough. Maybe not first impressions, I guess, but like experience initially coaching early on. And I've told James this before, so it's not like I'm springing this on him or anything. But it was just from a player perspective, the experience was not necessarily my way or the highway, but like, no, I genuinely believe this is the best thing we can be doing. And not the most listening involved and like trusting the players at that point is what it felt like to me as a player. But he definitely shifted in that area as he went on and just was super, by the end of it, like open, like, hey guys, do we need to do this? What do we need to work on? Where do you guys think we're at? How you guys feeling, fitness wise, whatever it might be. And so that was even just a cool thing to see evolving just in the few short years that I played under him. And then after that, he invited me to come coach with him at Concordia University a few years later. So I coached for 5 seasons with him there in Columbia, South Carolina, which was pretty cool, although thoroughly hot. Memories, we have a laundry list. Some of the best times, I think, are in the preseason life where, you're doing multiple sessions a day, whether as a player or as coaches together. And it's hard and it's a grind, but it's also like some of the best times, just getting to train, basically eat, sleep, train, plan those things out. And also just the 2 Guatemala trips. We went on mission trips to Guatemala. Just definitely got to see a different side of James there, kind of like the chilled out vacation vibe almost, just because so much of it was not in his hands. Like we kind of just had to trust our contacts over there who were setting things up and organizing, and also because the time of day didn't really matter. It was like, you have a game today and we're going to play it, but there's no set time on basically start time or end time. So that was interesting too.
Yeah, for a coach like me who values structure and likes to know everything and be in control, that was quite an experience.
That's what I've got, just kind of first impressions and memories. If you have something to share, go for it.
Yeah, just obviously Tyler and I go way back. We've spent a lot of time together on the soccer field, both as a player, Tyler as a player, and then as an assistant coach. And I can honestly say that kind of what Tyler said about kind of my first year coaching at the college level, we definitely grew up together. And I will say that these guys taught me a lot, and hopefully I taught them as well in time. But it was like you said, it took a little while to figure that out, and but when it did, it was a beautiful thing. And so it was so fun to see Tyler grow as a player. I definitely can say that Tyler got better in the years that he was with me, because he was committed and he was he wanted it, right, and he took ownership of it. And I'd like to think that I showed some belief in you, Tyler, and that you responded well to that, right? And so,
oh yeah,
to see your leadership grow, you're not a real vocal type guy that's going to rah and talk a lot, but you led by example, and both as a player and as a coach, I think you grew so much, and so those are really good years. Some of the best memories in my coaching career were those years in Florida at Clearwater, as I grew up as a coach, but also to see you and other guys on the team grow. And then to see you go from being a very good player to being an All-American, to being a leader on our team, and eventually as we won 2 national championships. Great memories. Obviously winning is huge. That's a huge part of it, but also just to see the growth in you and the other guys that were part of those teams, and growth in myself. Right? That I think those things were really impactful in my life, and hopefully in yours as well. And you mentioned the mission trips as well. That was all part of it, right? Those were really good times. So, love to redo some of those times. And have another reunion again soon, Tyler.
Oh yeah, I'm interested for that. I missed the last one, as Whitney was very late in pregnancy, but I'm definitely looking forward to another one on the radar.
Yes, sir.
So could you give just a little bit for everybody listening or watching along, just a quick overview kind of your journey? We're talking about transitions in a coaching career. And so I think it'd be great to hear just about your journey going from life as a player, even as you change from level, like lower to higher levels there as a player. And then also the same thing as a coach, going from club in high school to college, all those things.
Yeah, so very quickly, I started playing soccer when I was 5, like many kids do, just in a rec league, and loved it. Well, God bless me athletically, and parents that gave me that opportunity, and so it was fun to early on play for the Carolina Bankers. Was the name of our club team. We were sponsored by a bank, and we had quite a win streak. We had a really good team playing with my buddies. But anyway, we transitioned from there, played club throughout, and then Went on to play in high school. Won a state championship as a senior. First time we'd ever done that at our school. Went on and played in college, and then went on to play 1 year after college. Played for a semi-pro team in our area called the South Carolina Shamrocks. That was an interesting experience. Did that for 1 year, and learned a lot doing that, but also realized that I wasn't going to be doing or playing soccer for a living. I wasn't good enough to do that, but I knew I wanted to be around the game. And so even from an early age, I knew I wanted to coach. And so actually started coaching even in college. I coached a club team. I had the opportunity to do that where I learned a lot, had a lot of fun doing that. And then went on to coach after college in high school at the high school level. I did that for 10 years. I taught and coached, did all of those kinds of things. And then went on, had the opportunity to move on to coach in college, and was fortunate enough to have some success in high school. And so got the opportunity to coach in college, and that's where I met you, Tyler. That's where we had a lot of success, and that's where I really grew as a coach. And then moved to where I am now, at Columbia International University in Columbia, South Carolina. I had a chance to start a program from scratch. And so not too many coaches get a chance to start a college program from nothing. And so that's when you came along with me, and we have a lot of funny stories about that. There are good days and bad days, but to get a chance to put our stamp on something and to build something from scratch was a lot of fun. It was challenging, but it was also really rewarding. And so did that for a number of years, did that for about 6 years before moving into athletic administration as the athletic director here at the university. Did that for 3.5, and now I have the opportunity to teach about what I've done in my life as a player and as a coach, as a athletic director. And the funny thing is now I've come full circle. I'm back coaching club soccer again. So I have a son, Davis, who's 12 years old. And just to be able to coach him has been a lot of fun. And so we've actually started a club team that he's a part of. And so now I've gone full circle. I've gone from club all the way up and now back down to club. So a lot of great memories, a lot of opportunities to hopefully have an impact through coaching. A lot of wins, a lot of losses, but definitely a lot of great memories in the process.
And now you are working, you're in charge of the sports management program?
Yeah, now I'm the director of the sport management degree program at our university. And so that's actually been a pretty recent transition. About a year and a half I've been doing that. And so, but it has been really rewarding. It's been fun to be able to relay the stories, the things that I've learned, good and bad, right? I've got a lot of experiences, and to be able to kind of teach our students now what it is to lead. We have a coaching theory class today, and I was even telling them some of the stories from my coaching days, right? Things I've learned over time. And so it's fun to kind of build into the next generation of coaches and hopefully see them be successful and hopefully impart to them something that they can take with them that they can use as they venture into coaching for themselves.
And it wasn't too long ago that you got your PhD?
Yes, I finished my PhD about a year and a half ago in sport management leadership. And so, again, that just opened the door to be able to teach and do what I'm doing now and be able to coach my boy as a result. And so God's been really good to me, blessed me with lots of great opportunities throughout my life, and now to be able to teach about it and to be in charge of the program here. I'm still involved with the athletic teams here. Still go to games, still very involved with our athletes, but it's not in a role where I'm the head coach anymore, which is a little weird for me, honestly. It's been a transition for sure.
Yeah, so I think you have a really cool perspective just to be able to see, a coach at any level. I think it's pretty common for them to be kind of like, hey, I wonder if that would be better over there, whether it's like, I'm in the club system and I want to move to a school, or I'm in the school system, I want to move to club. or things like that. So I think that's really cool, and that just about any coach can gain some perspective just from your experience.
Hopefully I've got something to offer. I don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure. What kind of challenges or struggles did you have in that initial transition going from kind of like I'm a soccer player type life to heading more towards coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was definitely a challenge. You go from playing at a high level, playing all the time, competing, and then you're not in that same environment. But certainly, like many players, I continued to stay active, continued to play in leagues and tournaments around, kind of scratch that competitive itch. But at the same time, that's kind of part of the transition into coaching. I knew I wanted to be involved in soccer. I knew I wanted to be involved in coaching, and so that was a natural transition for me. It kept me connected to the game, and so I jumped right into coaching. Like I said, I'd done some of that in college, and then moved right into coaching in club and also high school. And so that kind of scratched that itch for me. And I had to learn that I'm so competitive as a player, right? And so to then be able to try to do that on the sideline, right? Obviously, in soccer, you can't control everything as a coach. I think early on, man, I was one of those guys, the yellers, right? They're constantly yelling at the team, trying to be like, tell them everything they need to know. But the reality of that's not a very good way to coach, right? Because you kind of see what you've done in practice, right? You kind of teach the players to solve problems on the field. And I learned that very quickly. It's hard to control everything once the game started, right? Whereas when I was a player, I did have some level of control. I had more influence on the game. As a coach, my work was done in training and in preparing the players. So a little bit lonely over there on the sidelines at times.
Yeah, that's something for me too. It's just like I can jump in and, at least feel like I have a legit chance of making an impact if I'm out there playing. But as a coach, it's so much just like, hey, we got to put the work in our training, and I'm trusting you guys to go out and deliver. And there's just so much more involved than just like me saying, no, I gotta step up my game. I gotta ramp up the intensity. It's like, now I'm counting on the 11 guys out there with 11 different personal lives and other things going on, and girlfriend, grades, big tests, staying up all night playing video games or studying. Like, I'm counting all these guys. I'm counting on all them to, deliver what we've been working on. And it's just so much more like just out of control, basically.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you described it well. Soccer is kind of unique in that way, right? You can't call timeout. You get 15 minutes at halftime, but other than that, they're largely on their own. You can make a few adjustments with your substitutions, but even that, you don't have a lot of control over what's going on. A lot of it is creating belief in your players and also preparing them to do what you need to do. And that's the challenge, especially as you get into the higher levels, is managing people and then putting them in position to be successful.
So you touched on a little bit just as a player staying connected with the game, and kind of coaching was an opportunity for that. Can you share a little bit about when you kind of first started to realize that being a coach was something that you wanted to do more of like a career or full-time type opportunity?
Well, I think it goes back to when I was young. I know I love sport. I knew I wanted to be a coach from the earliest age. And so I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so even in college, I studied math education. And not because I love math. I look back, I'm like, why did I do that? But I knew I wanted to coach, and I knew if I could get a math teaching position in a high school where I knew I could coach. And so even that was geared toward being able to be involved in coaching, and then to have some success and see that I loved it, and to be able to kind of be a little unsettled at that level, to think, okay, what's the next thing? And for me, to have an opportunity then to move to the college level, be able to coach at that level. Even my path into college coaching wasn't typical. Very often you don't see guys go from the high school level to the college level. But I had the opportunity to do that, and I'm very thankful for that. But all of that was just that early on. I think I had that desire to be involved in coaching, to get better at it, to work at it, getting coaching licenses, studying the game. No matter what level I was at, I think I think it's important that you work on your trade, right, and get really good at your craft. And so I wanted to be a coach. I knew I wanted to be a coach. I loved it, and I constantly worked at it. And fortunately, I had the opportunity to continue to move up in levels, and God blessed me with some really great opportunities as a result.
What would you say was the biggest transition period, whether it's in your coaching or playing journey or coaching? What was the biggest transition that you made, or the biggest learning curve that you ran into?
Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to it early in the introduction when you talked about my first year of coaching in college, right? You saw me as a first-year college coach, and I think I changed a lot in the time there. But I think going from coaching club coaching, then coaching high school, right, in a place where I was well respected as a player, people knew me as a player and as a person. And so it was easy to gain respect of my players at that level. In high school, and guys respected me. They knew I knew what I was talking about, and so it was easy to convince them of that. When I moved from South Carolina to Florida, right, you didn't know who I was that necessarily. You might have heard some things, but I had to earn your respect, and so. Maybe at first I tried to do some of the things that I did in high school, assuming that guys would just follow and do what I tell them to do. You talked about kind of my way or the highway mentality. And I quickly realized that, I got to get these guys on board with what I want to do. They're not just going to just buy in automatically. And so I even had to adapt the way I coached, the way I interacted with guys like you, right? So I realized very early on that I needed you guys to be on board. And so I had to, it took some time, right? It took probably a season for me to adjust to that and understand that how do I gain the respect of guys like you? And I like to think that I changed a lot over time. Like I said, I learned a lot from you guys, and you guys taught me a lot. But I think that was one of the biggest challenges, honestly, and it was probably one of the biggest growth periods for me too, because I got a chance to really stretch myself. And then to see the benefit of that and see the results that went along with that was really quite a good experience, challenging at the same time.
Do you think that was that big of a transition from high school to college, or from like home and recognized and familiar to brand new and kind of have to start from scratch to prove yourself to everybody?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's probably both, whereas I was well established, great reputation for the most part. I think that fed into it, but I also think it was a jump in level, right? And so I had to figure that out. And I think it became more and more about managing people. I think as you go up in level, it's less about, what it's less about, the player development and those kinds of things, and working on technical skills and all that. Obviously, you have to do that, right? It became more and more about managing people. And so I had to learn how to properly manage people, to get people on board with what we were trying to do, and then also to create belief in them and to empower them. Like, I think one of the things that I learned that I began to do was to create belief and to empower guys. Whereas before it was like, hey, just do what I say and you'll be fine. But now it was, you guys can do this, right? And you've got to see the benefit of this. You've got to believe in yourself. And so that management side became a big challenge. But I think I learned a lot in that process.
So was there a time kind of when you started to see it clicking a little bit and you got settled in and you're able to recognize, like, no, I can do this. I'm like, we're making progress. This is like, we got this.
I think that second year in college, was that your junior year? I think I started to kind of build that team culture that we wanted to have. And it wasn't because I told you to do it. but I gave you guys ownership. I don't know if you remember, but in the summer, or in the spring workouts, instead of me taking charge of everything and laying everything out and pushing you guys to do this and that, I said to you guys, hey, you guys are going to lead this. And the cool thing was to see you, guys like you, who wanted it, who were motivated, right, to take leadership, and then just to take that leadership from me and become part of a team together. Like, we're in this together, right? We had leadership team and all of that. And to be able to create that culture where it's not just coming from me, but it's a shared leadership that trickles down to the rest of the team. And so I think that second year was a big step in the right direction. We had a couple of huge wins against some teams that we had struggled to beat before, and I think we all started to then, okay, we're starting to believe in what we're trying to do here. And I think everybody got on board with that. And we saw the result of that being a national championship of that year, and obviously the next year as well. So I think that was the biggest growth period right there, where I began to see, okay, we can do this.
Yeah, it's cool to see as a coach, you have, especially early on, kind of whatever your go-to phrases or requirements are, or expectations that are set. And then like a year or two goes, and the guys who have been with you for a year or two, they start to carry that out and live that out without you having to stand there and be like, hey guys, come on, let's pick up the trash. You know what I mean? And it's cool when you just start to see that building. It might take a lot of patience to get there, but when you do finally see that, it's like, yes, we've gotten somewhere. Because I feel like with coaching, so much of it is so much investment, and there's not any guarantee of ROI that you're going to see. Like, it might be something that they don't catch on to, especially off the field and investing in people. It might not be something that they don't catch on to at all, or that they don't until they're like 10 years down the road and like, man, that was really good.
Yeah, that's a great point. That the things that I described didn't just happen overnight, right? It's not like you guys just all of a sudden, oh, okay, I'm gonna do what Coach wants to do, and I'm gonna buy into his leadership, right? It took a lot of time that we spent together, a lot of investment off the field and also on the field. You guys had to know that I loved you and I cared about you, and then you guys had to care and love for each other, right? And that drew that group together, and it drove us forward together, right? I don't think you can, prepackage that. I don't think that, here's 5 steps to building that kind of team, right? But I certainly think you can do some things that help to create that kind of culture. And that's what I tried to do. And fortunately, you guys bought into it, and we were able to see, obviously good results from that. I wish it was always that easy. I can't say it's always been that easy trying to build. When we came here to Columbia, you came with me, right? I think we did a lot of great things in building the kind of culture, but it wasn't easy, or we had to start again. And so I think each team is different. You have to find the right ways to motivate and empower, to serve them. You got to hold on to the things that as a coach, that I feel are really important, and maybe let go of some things that weren't. But I think I can't say enough about empowering players to lead and to make decisions for themselves. I think that's one of the most important things that I did as a coach, and that coaches can do to create that kind of culture.
I think in that culture too, you as the coach or the leader, like trying to create something like that, you have to be that. You can't just say the right things. Like, you have to be that in your work and your preparation and your belief. It has to all be like you're living that out. It can't just be like, no, yeah, you guys can do that. Like,
right.
And you guys got to train hard and do all the preparation and stuff and work your butts off in training. But I'm going to be over here like, oh, I guess I probably should have planned ahead for this. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have all that lined up and be living that out. Otherwise, you're going to get there. As a player, you can just easily see through that so quickly.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think you guys, I had to put the work in. I had to believe it for myself before you guys would, right? And so otherwise you see, like you said, college players, high-level players, high school, college, professional players, they see right through that if you're not authentic to to what you're asking them to do. And so I had to model it. I had to believe it myself. Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
What are some of the similarities and differences between the different levels, whether through your playing time or coaching, that you kind of found interesting or surprising?
Yeah, I mean, as I early on in my career when I was coaching at the club level, it really is all about making it fun. Developing players, working on especially their technical skills. And then as I moved into the high school higher levels, and then obviously into college, and both as a player and as a coach, became more and more about obviously tactics enter into that. So you have to be tactically sound and know what's going on. But I also became, again, like I was saying earlier, managing players and getting people into the right mindset, right? And so, I think those are the biggest differences as I moved up in level. I will say this one thing I've always tried to do is make the big time where I was. So a lot of times as coaches, we always think, oh, when I become a college coach, then I'll do this. Or if I get into the professional level, I'll do this. But a coach very early on in my career, I heard him say this, make the big time where you're at. So if I'm coaching a U10 kids team, I want to make that the best I can be. I want to be all in there, right? I'm going to make it as professional environment as I can, right? And so make the big time right there where I was. And so every level I've been, I tried to make the big time where I was at when I was in high school, right? Developing a pride in who we were and what we were doing. Same thing in college, same thing in club at whatever level. And so that's one thing that I've always tried to do. I think people are people, right? There are always going to be challenges. They're just a little bit different at every different level. And I think you've got to know how to manage people and get the most out of them, at every level. And you've got to, as a coach, that's your job to figure out what that is. I may not train a U10 club team the same way I would a professional team, right? But there are things that you would do that are the same, but you also have to learn how to get the best out of each player. And that's my job as a coach. I always try to do that.
I think that's awesome. That's a really good, just kind of principle to stick to. You gotta be where you are and make the most of it.
Yeah, be all in, right? I mean, it's so easy to, this isn't a big deal. No, make it special, right? And people will notice. That's the thing. If you do that, then people will notice. And that's how you're going to get those opportunities to move to another level if that's your goal. But if you're just focused on, I got to become this, it's easy to lose sight of where you are right now. And so right now I'm coaching my son's club team. I want to build into those guys. I want to show up every day and give them my best. Because I love those guys and I want to see them grow as players. I want to see them grow as men. And so I try to make that the big time now. And so that's been fun.
I think just from my perspective, that's been a huge thing in your career too, because you never know who is watching and you might not have any type of plan for in 5 years, I want to be at this level, moved up from where I am and everything like that. You're just investing where you are, and then the people, there's somebody's out there, there's open positions available, and they're looking to fill them, and they're looking for people like that it's clear that they're making the most of wherever that they're at.
Yeah, if you grind and you work hard and you do a good job, people will notice. No doubt.
Do you think that new coaches today, somebody just getting started, the type of challenges and things that they're facing today, do you think they're significantly different than what you faced early on when you were getting started coaching?
I think the answer is yes and no. I think no in that, players, no matter where you're coaching, players want to know that you care, right? That you're invested in them, that you want the best from them, right? I don't think that's changed at all. Right? If they know that I care for them as a coach, that I'm, there for them on and off the field, then that's going to make me more effective as a coach. They're going to respect me. They're going to listen to me, and that kind of thing. I do, however, think that players are a little bit more of a challenge today in some ways. If you think about players today are often, more entitled, honestly. They've grown up thinking that, they're owed playing time. They're owed those opportunities to play or to, instead of having to work for them. Right. And so, even in the later stages of my career, I began to see a change from even in that, right? You couldn't just expect guys to buy into their role because they felt like they were owed something or that they were entitled to it. And so getting players to buy into their role is a challenge, right? And to be unselfish, to put the team first. I think of the successful teams that you were a part of, Tyler, under me, right? We had guys that bought into their role, and that was unique. That wasn't normal, right? We had guys that maybe had played a lot in previous years, kind of bought into a role as a leader, as a senior, maybe not even playing a lot. And so that's harder to do today, for sure. I think, but at the same time, I think players are players, and they want to know that you care about them. They want to know that you want their best for them, and that you believe in them. And if I can do that as a coach, I think I can get the best out of the players, even 20 years ago, or whether that's today. I think that hasn't changed.
What advice would you give yourself as a new coach just getting started?
If I were myself today, I think I would say, just being bought in. I mentioned, making the big time where you're at. I would say to myself or to coaches that are just getting into the game, to really invest in players. And you can't just show up and expect them to do what you say, right? You've got to show them that you care and that you're there for them, right? And then to see that can really have an impact on a life. To see how a coach can impact through that platform of coaching. Don't take that for granted, right? I think early on in my career, it was all about winning. I was driven, competitive, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Obviously, winning is important, and we want to strive to win. But at the same time, in the long run, it's not about the winning. The winning's a byproduct of that. So if you focus on real development and caring and loving the players that you get a chance to coach, then they're going to play for you, and they're going to enjoy it, and they're also going to be successful, and that's where the winning comes in. And so, I would say to myself, just chill out, right? You don't have to control everything, right? Give the players some of that and allow them to enjoy it, and I think you'll see the fruit of that.
What are some of the things that you've learned from the coaches you've played under?
I think, I've played for a number of coaches over the years. I think back to my very first coach, my very first club coach. He wasn't a good soccer coach. Admittedly, he would say he wasn't a good soccer coach. He was he just kind of put the team together. But you know what? He showed belief in me, and I responded to that. And I think I grew a lot as a player because I knew that Coach Dan was gonna show belief in me. He believed that I was going to score 2 or 3 goals a game or whatever that was. I think about my high school coach, and my high school coach, again, not an amazing coach, a solid coach, but I think I learned from him that it isn't just about winning, right? It's about building relationships and using your platform to impact, because I knew that he cared about me, right? And that became evident in the way that he treated me and the way our team interacted with each other. When I was in college, I had a coach that again showed a ton of belief in me and made me the captain and put me in leadership positions and stretched me as a player. And so I got to see how, for myself, how that had impacted me and made me such a better player. He was also huge into fitness. And so I learned the importance of fitness. I was in the best shape of my life by far because of how hard he pushed us and how he pushed those buttons. I was thinking about even at the pro level the season I played for the Shamrocks. That coach, that was a mess, right? That a lot of times you think, you go up higher in levels, the coaching gets better. right? That was a nightmare on how to not to treat people and how not to put a team together. And so even in that, you learn like this is not how you manage people. This is not how you put a team together. I learned even at the professional level what not to do, which seems odd, but so I've had a number of good coaches, a variety of coaches over the years, and each step along the way, I think I've learned different things. Sometimes what not to do, but also different things from them that helped me learn what to do as a coach when I got out on my own and I started to make those decisions for myself.
What would you say separates great coaches from good coaches? Like, what makes a great coach great?
I think several things. I've kind of alluded to a lot of these, but I think caring for their players, not just about whether they win or lose or help them win, but to genuinely care about their players. I think great coaches know it's not about them. They're not going to make it about me. It's going to be about the team. I think great coaches invest in their players and the development of their players on and off the field. I think great coaches build culture that is unlike other places, and that sometimes that's tough, but I think they know who they are and what they're trying to do, and so they build a culture that they empower players, show belief in players, and great coaches, players want to play for them, and they enjoy it. And, I've tried to do as many of those things as I could throughout my career. I'd say those are the big things. Some of these things I've already talked about tonight as well.
So just some other type of, I don't know, it seems not random, but just a little different to me, but like you've started and sold a soccer league, and now what you're doing is interesting to me too, because you're not, you set up kind of a club team to be able to coach your son, Davis, and it's not just like the local program, I don't think it's anywhere close to you, right? And it's just like, you kind of have an agreement with them, like, hey, we'll use your branding and everything, and I just want to be able to run my team here. So I'm interested in these things because it's not, you just have found ways, whether it's starting a league when there's not one there, or not a good one there or whatever, and then eventually selling it, or finding a different club system so to be able to do what you want to do, instead of like accepting, well, we can't do that here. Sorry. It's no, how do we make this happen? What does it look like? And I'm interested to hear kind of what the building steps of that look like, because it's not even an alternative or an option that I would have considered. I've been like, oh, well, that doesn't exist. So, well, I got to find something else, you know what I mean? Rather than just, okay, how do we build that? How do we make that happen?
Right. So I think in both those situations, it was just kind of a felt need, right? And so like with the soccer league that I started in Greenville, there was a 6-a-side league in the summer, but the owners were doing a really poor job in driving it in the ground. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to create my own league. We're going to have a website. We're going to give out T-shirts to the teams that win. We're going to have quality officials. The fields are going to be good. Just up the level of everything. And because things had been done so poorly before, people responded, right? And we were able to create a really, really good brand, a really good league. And then when I moved to Florida, I sold that to another organization. And so that was just kind of off the cuff. It was like, all right, somebody's got to do this, because I was playing in the league and it was really bad. Officials not showing up, fields not lined. Nobody cared, right? It was just about somebody trying to make money. And so just trying to do things with excellence and try to improve it was the motivation there. I'm not afraid to try something new. And then with the club team, it's been a lot of fun to kind of build a club around my son. Really, honestly, the only reason I started the club is to give Davis a chance to play with his buddies. So our club, we actually play out of a city that's about an hour and 15 minutes away. We don't play there. We play under their umbrella. It's very difficult just to start a club and to be able to, you have to have a certain number of rec players and all that. Really, all I wanted was a place for my son and his friends and guys that he had wanted to play with to be able to play. And so there are some obstacles that, that we were dealing with. And so we decided, hey, let's start a club. Let's see where this can go. And so kind of creating something different, right? So we have rec and you have elite level clubs, and we're not here to talk about club and the challenges of that, right? Because that has its own challenges. But and there's nothing wrong with that. People want to be involved in either one of those. But we were looking for something different, and a place where club soccer didn't dominate our lives, right? Every weekend we didn't have to be driving 2 or 3 hours going to tournaments all over. And also for us, Sundays was a big deal. I didn't want to play every Sunday, right? I want to have some control over that. And then the cost of club soccer can be really, really expensive. I have parents that are, couldn't afford to spend $1,500 or $2,000 a season, but their kids wanted to play. And so, obviously transitioning from being a coach to then now teaching and having time to be able to put this together and to coach my son. We put something together where, I don't need to make money to do this. I just want to give kids opportunities. And the parents and the kids have really responded. It's been fun to start that. And it's, it's based also on our faith, and so be able to use things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about my faith, my relationship with Christ, and also passionate about soccer and how I can combine those two things. Right. And so, challenging these boys to be great soccer players, but also challenging them and using that to challenge them in their faith and make a difference in their lives. So it's been a fun journey. It's been a challenge. There aren't without obstacles in either one, but God's blessed that. God's blessed me with the opportunity and given me the opportunity to do that. And so it's been fun. And we have a game tomorrow, so we'll see how we do. It'll be our first game. We open up tomorrow afternoon, so we'll see how the Warriors FC, shout out to those guys tonight. Maybe they'll listen to this podcast, but hopefully we'll take care of business tomorrow afternoon on the pitch.
How many people did you work with? Like, what kind of staff and things were involved with starting the league, and then with starting and running the league, and then starting and running the club? Like, was it a pretty big group, or were you pretty solo for a while, or what is that?
I mean, the soccer league, it was just me, obviously, and then my wife helped me, just like anything, you get kind of like you starting this podcast, you and Whitney and your friend, it's just a great idea and you got to start somewhere. And so, I saw a need and jumped into it. It was just me and then, some of my friends, some people that helped me along the way, but getting officials and that kind of stuff. And then with the club, I had another guy who here in the area that worked in soccer. It's well respected, and I said, "Hey Matt, you want to join me? He's got a son that's the same age, and so together we started the team, and it's been a fun journey. So, pretty much solo to start with, along with one or two other people, and we'll see where it goes from here.
And so you haven't had a game yet?
No. Well,
with COVID and everything?
This season we have.
Oh, for this season?
Yeah, okay. This is our third season of doing it. Yeah, so the fall season starts tomorrow.
Nice. Let's go, Warriors.
Warriors.
So, as you look back on your career, playing, coaching, teaching, what kind of things stand out as the most meaningful to you?
Definitely for me, it's the relationships, right? And I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast with you, Tyler, but it's the relationship that I have with you that when we get together, we instantly have a history, we have a connection, right? We have memories that we can hold on to. And so it's guys like you that are by far what makes coaching worth it, right? I like to think that I had an impact on you, then you had an impact on me, right? And so when we get back together for a reunion, right, we've got that connection that we had over the heat of Florida preseasons that you kind of talked about in the beginning, right? And we got those memories, the stories. We won't take time to tell tonight, but we got those stories that we can share. And so for me, it's definitely the relationships. And it's exciting to see guys like you now with two kiddos and doing well and making an impact through coaching the next generation of kids. I love to hear about guys like you that are out there, investing in others, right? I like to think that maybe I had a small piece of influence in that. And so that's really what it's about for me. It's the relationships. It's about the impact that I hopefully can have positively through my role as a coach.
Definitely huge impact. And I think that's one of the coolest things just in my experience is that I can still grab the phone and text even the guys that I played club with, like 13, 14 years old, and just, hey, what's up, dude? And just be in touch. And just, I mean, even from so long ago, it's so cool. And that's, you look back, wins are nice, goals are nice, but it's just so much bigger and actually long-term impactful. The people who you're out there day in and day out with. And
yeah, I mean, obviously the winning and the championship enhance that. I think you can have that kind of brings you together, but those aren't the things that I think back to my career. Those aren't really the things that I even focus on. It's the relationships and to see, guys like you doing well and impacting others. That's awesome. That gets me excited.
So, getting near the end, we get to some of our favorite questions. What is something in your field that you're excited about in the future?
In my current field?
Yes.
For me right now, we just started in the process of starting a coaching curriculum as part of our sport management major. And so we've started a concentration in coaching, and we might build on that, but be able to train up the next generations of coaches, both in the classroom and then practically giving them practical experiences, be able to use some of the things that I've learned, sometimes learned the hard way, things that have worked or not worked, things I've observed. That's really fun for me. That's exciting for me to be able to kind of give back through that. I think the journey that God's brought me on over 20 some years of coaching to now be, sound like an old man over here, but now as a 45-year-old coach that's come full circle, to be able to give back in that way is fun. I also like you mentioned the coaching piece, being able to coach my son. When I was coaching in college, that wouldn't have been possible because I didn't have time, right? I was focused on recruiting and it's 24/7. And so to be able to do that now, to be able to invest in my own son, which I wasn't necessarily able to do before, is exciting for me. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. What is one thing outside of your field that excites you right now? It can be anything except nothing coaching, nothing teaching.
Okay, so right now I'm passionate about tennis. So I'm playing a lot of tennis, and that's my favorite thing to do. So playing some tennis leagues kind of scratches that competitive itch that I used to have, or that I used to be able to do on the field as a coach or as a player. So I'm still very competitive. I still want to be the best. I don't like to lose. And so to be involved in tennis, I'm constantly working on things, working on my serve, my return to serve, my volley, all that kind of thing. So it's kind of weird. I don't want to play soccer anymore. I'm old and I'm not very good anymore, so it's not as fun. So I picked up tennis so I can compete at this age. I compete with the young bucks. Tennis enables me to be able to do that.
Nice, high skill game.
Yep.
Is that a brand new thing, starting from scratch, or something you had done previously?
I played in high school. Not on our high school didn't have a team, but I played in some events. I used to play a lot when I was young, and then got into soccer and coaching. All that, really didn't have time to do that, and so that's something I've always enjoyed. I played from time to time here and there, but now to be able to play competitively on teams and leagues here in the area. That's been a lot of fun.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You can contact me. My email My email is james.whitaker@ciu.edu. Would love to chat with any of you about coaching, your coaching journey. If I can be a help in any way, I'd love to do that. I'd love to give back.
Awesome. Well, James, thanks so much for joining me on here. You are a man who has definitely had a tremendous impact in my life, just as a person and a coach, and not just what you've taught me, but what you've lived out and kind of modeled it in action throughout. And it's been a big part of me just seeing, that soccer and sports in general, they're so much bigger than just, big wins and awesome goals that you score. There's just so much bigger than that. And I believe that God put me on this earth to connect with people through the game of soccer, because there's nothing else that I've found that I can connect with people as well than through soccer. So that's something that I've learned, and just you've been a big part of kind of teaching me the importance of that and how that can be impactful and meaningful. So I appreciate you. And appreciate you jumping on here with me.
Thanks, man. Super proud of you. Like I said, I have such great memories, and just proud of you and seeing, how God's using you and your little family there with you and Whitney, and then the teams that you're getting to coach. Just want to challenge you to keep doing it, man. Super proud of you. God will continue to use you in the future. And thanks for the opportunity to join you tonight.
It was awesome to have you on.
Awesome.
So until next time, thanks a lot, James.
Thank you, Tyler. Good job, buddy.
I hope you really enjoyed that episode. It was awesome to get to catch up with James and just soak in some of his wisdom and experience that he was so generous to share with us. It was valuable for you, and would love to hear about it. If you have any comments, drop a comment on the YouTube video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more from us. We're excited to have you. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Subscribe on that podcast, and we will see you next time.